gentlemen. Hope everybody's having a great time. It is currently the next day. Because I have made the decision to start doing these in the next day because we don't have a tired prophet. I'm not tired from it being a late night. But as y'all can tell, we are in week 7. I'm your host, Avengers. Alongside us is our co-host, Prophet.
What up, what up, what up?
And let's get into this like always. Everybody knows the drill. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Like the video. We do these videos every 2 days. Sometimes every day, depending on when we advance. But we're going to get into this schedule. And for the start of it, week 6. First game, we have Eagles and Panthers. Panthers have had a really good a decent season. Eagles really not doing very well this season. But let's get into it. As we can see when we first go into this, we see that the Panthers won in everything but rushing yards, and even then 3 yards. Turnovers, they both had 3, and they own the time of possession. Throwing, whew, nope. Still, neither quarterback doing very well.
Definitely way better performance still by Cam Newton rather than Carson Wentz, though.
Yeah. Still a better performance. Cam Newton, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, sacked twice. Carson Wentz, 92 yards, 2 interceptions, sacked 6 times.
We see in the rushing stats right away that Carson Wentz is actually the leading rusher with 9 attempts for 90 yards. Then we see that Christian McCaffrey got a buttload of attempts, but still only managed to get 76 yards. We also see that Carson Wentz fumbled 3 times.
3 times. We see Cam Newton have the lone rushing touchdown. Yeah, Wendell Smallwood really not helping. Jonathan Stewart, 1 rush for 14 yards. We go into receiving, though. The leading receiver in the game was Curtis Samuel, rookie out of Ohio State, with 71 receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown. And Greg Olsen also getting 2 receptions, 53 yards, and a touchdown. No one else really out there doing much.
No.
Negative yards by Wendell
Defense.
Smallwood. 4 receptions for negative 4 yards.
Jesus. Well, let's head into the defense and see where this game really seemed to be a problem, because a lot of sacks in this game. A lot of sacks. We see at the top we have Shaq Thompson with 3 sacks, Captain Munnerlyn with 2, Tim Jernigan with 1, Kawan Short with 1, and Vinnie Curry and Fletcher Cox combining for 1.
In the interceptions, we have Malcolm Jenkins, strong safety, with 1, Ronald Darby with 1, Rodney McLeod Jr. with 1, and Mike Adams with 1, Kurt Coleman with 1. Some really big veterans in here, 8-year, 5-year, 13 years, and 7 years of experience. No block kicks, no safeties, and no defensive touchdowns.
But we do see that there were 3 forced fumbles by the Panthers.
Yeah, and any fumble recoveries, it says none, but it says Captain Munnerlyn had a yard. Alright, if he didn't recover it, how did he get a yard? But good job to the Panthers. Good luck to both of y'all, of course, for the rest of y'all's season. Next, we have the Dolphins at the Falcons. And as we can see by just before we even go into it, the Falcons dominated this game in everything but rushing. Oof. Falcons had no rushing game, which is a surprise, with 2 really good running backs, but no rushing yards.
We actually see also from the stats that the special teams played a very big role in this game for the Falcons.
Oh yeah, punt yards, kick return yards. Player stats, we go in, and of course we see Matt Ryan MVP, MVP. 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 8 sacks. And even RG3 was put in 63 yards, a touchdown, and sacked once. And Ryan Tannehill, 93 yards, 4 interceptions, sacked 8 times.
With a QB rating of 11.3.
Lord.
Shit. But when we go on offense, we see Jay Ajayi had another field day. 27 attempts, 208 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jay Ajayi's actually been doing really, really well for the Dolphins this year.
Yeah, even with that losing record of 0-6 now, Jay Ajayi is still, but you can't always put it on his back to win you games.
Exactly. It has to be a team effort that pulls together and wins a game.
Devonta Freeman, 62 yards and a touchdown. Not a field day, but still getting a decent amount of yards and a touchdown. Damian Williams, 24 yards. Derek Coleman, a fullback, with 8 yards. Tevin Coleman, 1 attempt for 2 yards.
Receiving wise, we see at the top of the list, as expected, Julio Jones with 5 receptions, 126 yards, and a touchdown. Then we see Mohamed Sanu with 4 receptions, 50 yards, and a touchdown, as well as Devontae Freeman, 4 receptions, 32 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, really nothing much besides Sanu and Julio for receiving. They all had 3 touchdowns, but really there was nothing besides Julio. In the defensive side, we see the sacks. Five sacks by Raekwon McMillan, rookie out of Ohio State. Now he is middle linebacker. He has gotten really good pressure on the quarterback this season.
Yeah, he has. When we actually talked about this at the beginning of the year, Avengers, when we were talking about which rookies to watch out for, I did mention to you Raekwon McMillan because I had the feeling that he had the potential to be a breakout candidate. But we still chose somebody else, but we see that he is making pretty big moves this year already.
Yeah, but it comes along with that mid blitz that the Dolphins love to run. That McMillan's always in there. But of course, we
He
go on
has the speed to
to
get there.
Vic Beasley Jr. 3 sacks by him. Duke Riley with 2, rookie out of LSU. No, so many rookies this season having breakout seasons, especially with another middle linebacker, Anthony Walker Jr., rookie out of Northwestern. 1.5 by Takaris McKinley, rookie out of UCLA. Cordrea Tankersley, rookie out of Clemson. Then we got Neville Hewitt with 1, Brooks Reed with 1, half by Devondre Campbell.
That was a lot of rookies.
A lot of rookies. Interceptions, though, 2 by Keanu Neal, who everybody's saying is going to have a breakout season this year in real life. Cordrea Tankersley with an interception. We have Ricardo Allen with 1. We have Byron Maxwell with 1. And Desmond Trufant with 1.
Defensive touchdowns. We have 2 defensive touchdowns, 1 by Keanu Neal and 1 by Dontari Poe, who had a fumble recovery for 8 yards.
Good job to the Falcons. Good luck to both of y'all for the rest of y'all's season, though.
The next game we see would be Cleveland versus Houston.
Before we get into this, I have to say, in the beginning, if y'all didn't know, me and Prophet sat down and we were talking about a lot of the rookies that, not even known rookies, we were just talking about rookies in general that might not be as known and that might actually have a great season, and they're all proving us that maybe they should have been chosen, and then there's the ones we chose that are still having breakout seasons.
They are. It seems like in this season that we have in Combo League, a lot of rookies are contributing massively to their games. Everybody's trying to progress them, get them in there so that they can become very good players in their rosters. So we see how much of an importance these rookie players are to teams.
All right, we go into the Cleveland versus Houston game. 47-14. Cleveland won on all sides. Still having 4 turnovers though, which you don't see much by the Browns. But in the
But
past couple weeks,
we still do see that in this game. This was a very much of a defensive game because both offenses held to pretty low numbers. I mean, granted, Houston was held to 70. Still, Cleveland was held to just at 200, which typically you still see teams go over that 200 mark.
we get in here. We see Deshaun Kaiser, rookie from Notre Dame, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, sacked 3 times, and Deshaun Watson, 121 yards, a touchdown, 9 interceptions, sacked 8 times. Which, you really can't blame it on the even if this user just came into the league, first league that he's ever played in. And really, that Houston O-line just really cannot hold, especially with the new block shedding and everything else in this game. So when there's so much pressure, you kind of either have to just throw the ball or take a sack and hope you don't fumble the ball.
Rushing wise, we see that rushing was pretty much non-existent in this game as you have Isaiah Crowell with 11 attempts for 53 yards to being the leading rusher in the game. And then we just see a massive drop with Lamar Miller for 12 attempts for 11 yards, averaging a 0.9 yards per carry. That is actually very bad if you put that together.
Yeah,
And then
but
we see
that young D-line that the Browns now have, Myles Garrett, of course, putting in a lot of work, especially with that speed and that 96 strength he's rocking. Oof.
Oh yeah. And especially already with having Danny Shelton in at defensive tackle and
Yes.
a underrated Emmanuel Ogbah. I do think Emmanuel Ogbah is very underrated in this league, and he has the potential to become a premier defensive end in the league.
We get into receiving though. You got Josh Malone, rookie out of Tennessee, 14 receptions for 122 yards. Ryan Griffin being the next, and then Lamar Miller, and really nothing. They're the only touchdowns going to Shelton Gibson, rookie out of West Virginia, and C.J. Fedorowicz and David Njoku. Only 3 receptions for 8 yards and a touchdown. That's not. Whew. Seems like David.
Defensively, we go in here. My bad.
Yeah, I'm just saying David Njoku
Defensively,
really not doing much this
he isn't,
season.
but he's still getting touchdowns in. Maybe not by yardage, but ultimately what matters is that as long as he gets the ball into the end zone, he's
Yeah.
putting up points for his team. Defensively, we go in here right away, and we see at the top for sacks, we have Myles Garrett, rookie out of Texas A&M, already known or expected to be one of the top pass rushers in the NFL. Behind him, we see Emmanuel Ogbah, as I said, an underrated defensive end in the league or at all, like overall in the NFL. He's actually a very good defensive end. Then we see Jamie Collins with 2 sacks, Benardrick McKinney with 1, Jordan Evans, rookie out of Oklahoma with 1, Jadeveon Clowney with 1, J.J. Watt with 1, and we see rookie Caleb Brantley out of Florida with a half a sack.
In interceptions, we have Jordan Willis, outside linebacker from rookie out of Kansas State with 2. Myles Garrett, rookie, Texas A&M with 1. Bernard McKinney with 1. Jordan Evans with 1. Jason McCourty with 1. Kevin Johnson with 1. Robert Nelson Jr. with 1. Jabril Peppers, rookie out of Michigan with 1. We have Joe Hayden with 1. Calvin Pryor III with 1. Christian Kirksey with 1. And Brian Cushing with 1. Just
Defensive touchdowns.
It's just,
There was a lot of interceptions.
yeah.
And there were a lot of defensive touchdowns in this game. One by Jordan Willis, rookie out of Kansas State. Benardrick McKinney having 1, Jason McCourty having 1, and Christian Kirksey with 1. We see that 3 of those interceptions were were just under 100 or just over 100 yards. So those very key plays in the red zone made by the defense.
And see, in my opinion, Bernard McKinney is so underrated. He's actually a really good middle linebacker, but you can't really like. Yes, in this game, the Houston Texans still have a great front seven, but oof, they have
He is just
nothing.
overshadowed by the powers of Jadeveon Clowney, J.J. Watt, and Whitney Merciless. He is just
Yes.
overshadowed by those.
And without, I'm sorry, it's really hard for the Texans, especially on offense. It's that O line. Really, you have no time, and then on defense, you have just the front seven. You don't have any secondary. It is just, I understand that it's really hard to do much in this game.
It is, but with time due, as Combo League will advance, I'm pretty sure that the Texans will target and get players that they need in those positions of need, and they will improve to be a playoff team. They
Yes.
definitely have the potential to be so.
Oh, of course, like always, congratulations to the Browns for the win. Good luck to everybody for the rest of y'all's seasons. Next game we're going into, though, is the Green Bay Packers versus Minnesota Vikings. And this was a game. Of course, it's a rivalry game, a division game, and we see the Packers coming out on top. Rushing, though, it's really a surprise to see this rushing amount by the Vikings, especially with the trades they've done, where they've gotten rid of uh, it's McKinnon, and they've gotten rid of
Yeah,
Latavius Murray.
but they still have
Dalvin
Dalvin Cook.
Cook.
And Dalvin Cook, going into the draft in real life, they started to downplay him because of the injury that he had in his sophomore year. They were really beginning to downplay him and downgrade him, especially under Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey.
Yes.
But I still believe that, like is shown at least in the game, that even in real life, Dalvin Cook can have a he can be a matchup nightmare. He has the potential to definitely be good. He is a straight up field runner and he can still make cuts. But he is known for being a north and south runner.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that, but it's also like John Ross. John Ross, even though he's got that amazing speed, he was downgraded because of the major injury he took. And in the NFL, that's just a big risk for a lot of teams because they're trying to build their team, and if you take like someone who's already had a big injury, then you know they have a big chance if they get hit in the same spot with a re-injury that might take them out for a season, maybe 2 seasons, maybe their whole career is done after it.
Yeah, and when you want to build a team for the future by bringing in these younger players and finding what players can impact your team in a positive way, you do want to have people with a fairly clean record when it comes to injuries and stuff like that, because that definitely shows that their body can handle more than others who can't, you know?
Yeah. But we get into this player stats. Sam Bradford, 185 yards, 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions, sacked once, and Aaron Rodgers, 246 yards, a touchdown, 4 interceptions, sacked 3 times.
In
Oof.
the rushing game, we do see Dalvin Cook making a major impact in this game. 20 attempts, 135 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 6.8 yards per carry. Then we just see a drop. Ty Montgomery, 18 attempts, 47 yards, averaging 2.6. Then we also
Which,
see Aaron Rodgers making an impact with those 2 touchdown runs.
yeah, surprised no fumbles too, but like, it's not like it's well, we're giving him time Montgomery to we're giving him time to really change from that receiving role to a rushing role. You know, not really used
It,
to trying to go out of the backfield, and you're used to just running upfield or across the field.
and it is still fairly impressive, like how Ty Montgomery actually runs really hard through the trenches. He's just absolutely he's a ground and pound type of guy. He
Yeah.
definitely can play the running back position. He just needs his time to get used to playing in the backfield like that and learning how to running the right place with his ball carrier vision. Once he gets that down, he can be a lethal runner in the
And if
NFL
we go
for
into
sure.
receiving, we see that with Devontae Adams, 95 yards and a touchdown. We see Stephon Diggs, 87 yards and a touchdown. We still see Ty Montgomery, 4 receptions for 63 yards, still using him to his capability of being a receiving back. We can see them splitting the ball between a lot of these players, but we can see him still at least knowing that he can catch a ball and run the ball. Defensively,
Yeah.
let's look at these sacks. Not very many as most games we watch. With Montravius Adams, defensive tackle, rookie out of Auburn with one. We got Jonathan Newsom with one. Everson Griffin with one. Half by Sharif Floyd and Linval Joseph.
Interceptions wise, we see Morgan Burnett with 2, John Ryan with 2,
Jake
Xavier
Ryan.
Rhodes with 2.
Jake Ryan,
Oh,
not John Ryan.
John. I was thinking the punter in my head. Xavier Rhodes with 2, Terrence Newman with 1, Trey Waynes with 1, and Vaughn House. There is definitely touchdowns in the defensive side as we see 2 of them. One by Jake Ryan and one by Xavier Rhodes.
And I do have to say something though. Everybody looks over age and stats, but I used the Vikings in a franchise in 17, and Xavier Rhodes actually got hurt in week 2 of that franchise. Terrence Newman was the starting number 1 cornerback because of that. And even though he's older and he's not as fast anymore, he still played. He still played. He got interceptions. He was able to stop the ball from being completed. So it's nice to see Terrence Newman still out there, still showing that he can help the team.
He has the coverage ability for sure, and once he gets in the press, he's also a very good press corner. So, as long as he's able to keep the press and make sure that the receiver does not break away from him, he will be a lockdown corner. He is definitely, even in the past, he was always known as a top-tier corner in the NFL.
Yeah. But of course, congratulations, Green Bay. Good luck to both of y'all. But here we come to the game of the week, guys. Patriots versus Jets, and we already see that the Jets won by 3. But as you can see, this was a close game. This game was pretty much looked like it was down to the wire. We see and it was. It really was. If you look at the box score, Jets scored 3. Then they both scored 3 in the second quarter. The third quarter, the Patriots came and scored 6, putting them up. But fourth quarter, you can see it, that it was a very close game.
Jets dominated, though, in almost every facet of the game as well. And, well, even with the Patriots keeping control of time, seems like they just couldn't make it. They couldn't make it count in the fourth quarter with the time of possession. Mama Bear seemed to come out and make the right decisions at the right time.
Well, in the passing game, neither of them did. Where we got Tom Brady with 298 yards, a touchdown, 3 interceptions, sacked 3 times. Blake Bortles came out 396 yards, 2 interceptions, sacked 5 times. Neither quarterback really doing very well in making smart decisions.
Yeah, the yardage still does make a pretty big impact on the game, as you can get field goals by getting good field position.
Yeah.
Rushing wise, we see though that rushing wise also in this game was fairly non-existent, but we do see Dion Lewis as the lead rusher with 12 attempts for 41 yards, and we see Blake Bortles with 3 attempts for 11 yards and a touchdown. No fumbles, surprisingly.
In the receiving, we're getting to see the 2 players that we wanted to see, Marquise Lee and Brandon Cooks. And Marquise Lee dominated the receiving game. 9 receptions, 186 yards. No touchdowns, but then we see Rob Gronkowski, 5 receptions, 90 yards, but that big body receiver, or he's pretty much a big body receiver. He might be slower, but he can still catch and hold on to the ball. And Brandon Cooks, Even with that speed, 7 receptions for 74 yards. The lone touchdown goes to Malcolm Mitchell for 1 reception, 14 yards, and a touchdown.
Defensively, we see as the top sack player, Eric Rowe, corner, with 3 sacks. Darren Lee with 1. Derek Rivers, rookie out of Youngstown State. Leonard Williams with 1. Coney Ely with 1. And Sheldon Richardson with 1.
And it's really
Interceptions wise,
surprising. It's really surprising to see Leonard Williams with only 1 sack in the game.
so far this season,
That
yeah, because he's
Patriots
typically averaging
O-line
3.
looks like they stopped Leonard Williams from making it to Tom Brady.
Interceptions
We got
wise,
Eric Rowe.
Eric Rowe.
We got Barry Church. It's hard to see Barry Church not boys anymore, but he's still rocking it in Jersey. I'm gonna say Jersey because that's where they actually play, is in New Jersey. We got Donta Hightower still making an impact. Marcus Williams and Ray Malaluga. Really surprising to see Ray Malaluga with an interception, especially with how slow he is.
And the touchdown goes to Eric Rowe. Eric Rowe had himself a field day today defensively, making impact both in the passing game, and it also seems like the rushing game, as he was also a tackler.
Yeah. Good job to both teams. I'm going to have to say good job to both teams, making it a really close game. And good luck for the rest of y'all seasons, especially since y'all are in the same division.
The next game that we have is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Arizona Cardinals. This game definitely looked to be an absolute blowout.
It was.
We see the Buccaneers just winning every single facet of the game, offensively as well as defensively. Time of possession as well, they dominated. We go into the passing stats here right away, and we see that passing was actually pretty bad in this game, surprisingly. We see Ryan Fitzpatrick with 182 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, sacked 3 times. Then we see Carson Palmer, 91 yards, down 3 interceptions, sacked 5 times. We also see Denard Robinson. Wow. That's a name that you haven't heard for a while at the quarterback position, because he was originally moved to running back, but we see him converted back to the quarterback position, and he got 24 yards in.
Well, we can't really.
Then we also see Colin.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but we were also looking at that because we did not notice that he moved him, and we really can't say anything because Denard Robinson. It's like if you tried to move Terrell Pryor back to quarterback. He started his season in the NFL. He even started on a team in game opener as a quarterback before being moved to wide receiver. And especially with the way you see Ryan Fitzpatrick playing, it doesn't seem like much of a change to just move somebody else who played quarterback to take over.
Yeah. Definitely. We also see Colin Kaepernick got into the game, 22 yards with 3 interceptions, sacked 3 times. In the rushing game, we see a familiar name from Madden 17 from Combo League, who was actually a premier wide receiver when people got their hands on him because of his speed. We see him turning into a running back here for us and 12 attempts for 141 yards and 3 touchdowns, averaging 11.8 yards a carry. Then we see David 12 attempts, 113 yards and a touchdown. And we also see Doug Martin with 12 attempts for 50 yards.
We go into the receiving game. Adam Humphries being the leading receiver, 63 yards off of 3 receptions, a 21 average. Really, Mike Evans really not doing much for Tampa, or really not being used as a threat. We see Jaron Brown having the lone touchdown on the receiving end of the ball. Defensively, we go to QB sacks. Still there, Prophet?
Yeah, I'm here.
We see
I
Noah
was just, I was just.
Spence, 2.5 sacks. Robert Ayers Jr. with 2.5. Levante David, 1.5. Quan Alexander with 1. Frosty Rucker with 1. Philip Willer with 1. Marcus Golden with 1. And half by Perry Riley Jr.
Interceptions wise, we see Brent Grimes at the top with 3 interceptions. Issa Abdul Kudus with 2 interceptions. Dion Buchanan with 1. Buda Baker with 1. Rookie out of Washington, Tyron the Honey Badger Matthew with 1.
I
And
actually
Vernon
moved to
Hargraves the third
cornerback.
with 1.
I actually moved to
That's a,
cornerback, if you see him.
that's that's an interesting move there, actually. But it does make sense because they do have Buda Baker in that secondary as well, and he is primarily a free safety. So it seems like a pretty good move, especially since the Cardinals already have Pat Pete on the other side.
Yeah. And then Vernon Hargraves the third.
Touchdowns wise, we see actually another game with quite a bit of defensive touchdowns. All Buccaneers players, we see Brent Grimes with 1, Issa Abdul Kudus with 1, and we also see Vernon Hargraves the third with 1.
Well, congratulations to the Buccaneers, and good luck to both of y'all for the rest of y'all season. And then we get down into Pittsburgh, which if I remember, this was played, but not by Johnny Kane. Johnny Kane is a new user. The other user after this game quit the league, but we're still gonna go over it. 23-14, Keon winning this game. We see that really the Pittsburgh side of the ball just did nothing. Even winning on offense, rushing, it was just still nothing there.
Even for the Kansas City side, yeah, they may have had 153 passing yards, but this looked like another defensive matchup.
Player stats, we got Pat Mahomes the second, rookie from Texas Tech, with 183 yards, a touchdown, 3 interceptions, sacked 7 times. And Big Ben, 122 yards, 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions, sacked 6 times. Oof.
Rushing wise, we see pretty much no rushing game in this game either. Le'Veon Bell, 19 attempts for only 59 yards. Then we see Latavius Murray, 9 attempts, 27 yards, a touchdown and a fumble, as well as Patrick Mahomes with 1 attempt, 7 yards, and 2 fumbles.
In the receiving end of the game, the top receiver was Travis Kelce. Chris Conley actually getting a touchdown, and Antonio Brown. Really not a receiving game, and even the touchdowns was just, there's really nothing there to even speak about.
But defensively, we know already that this game was a highly contested defensive game. And when we go into the sacks, we already know, as going over just the quarterback stats, that there were quite a bit of sacks in this game. And on the top of the list, we see James Harrison still playing at the very high level, getting 3 sacks. We see D Ford with 1.5, Justin Houston with 1.5, Ryan Shazier with 1, Ramik Wilson with 1, Kevin Pierre-Louis with 1, Javon Hargrave with 1, Bud Dupree with 1, and Stephon Tuitt with 1.
In interceptions, we have Kevin Pierre-Louis with 2, Terrence Mitchell with 2, Mike Mitchell with 2, Shazier with 1, and Eric Berry with 1.
Defensive touchdowns. This is another game that had multiple defensive touchdowns, one by Terrence Mitchell and one by Ryan Shazier. We also see that there were 3 forced fumbles, all by Steelers players, Ryan Shazier, Bud Dupree, and Stephon Tuitt.
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. Good luck to both y'all and the rest of y'all season. Really, a lot of sacks in this game, and yeah, it gets annoying because like this is so many sacks per game, per week. Like every game, both sides will have 5+ sacks on top of them, and it gets annoying sometimes with how many they just allow in this game.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just see. All right, let's get to the next game, which we see
Um,
right now. This game was played um, by Lima and a former member as Wet Taco, who seems to have just left the league.
because
We
he
see that
just played
Lima.
his game against the Broncos in Week 7. They had just played too.
Yeah,
So we're gonna still get into it. We go into this. We see that rushing. Whew, the Raiders had a rushing palooza this game. Even losing in the passing, they still, and even in turnovers, they had one less. And even then, it was time of possession was pretty even on both sides of this.
sure was. We go into the passing stats and we see Cardale Jones with 273 yards, a touchdown, 3 interceptions, sacked 3 times. Then we see Derek Carr actually having a extremely off game, 122 yards, 2 interceptions, and 1 sack. It's not often that you see Derek Carr with a 27.7 QB passer
And
rating.
it's really in this game, it's really hard to pass on a defense, and we all know pass leading does not help you. Pass leading, you will throw the ball completely out of bounds or completely away from where you're trying to throw it. You cannot pass lead
Possibly
in this
even
game.
backwards.
Oh yeah, possibly. I think they said that glitch is still happening. In
Yeah,
rushing,
that one's wild.
even though it doesn't seem like much, Marshawn Lynch, 11 attempts, 96 yards, still an 8.7 average, 2 touchdowns. Elijah McGuire, rookie from UL Lafayette, really not a game. 15 attempts for 69 yards, a 4.6 average. And Jalen Richards, 5 attempts or 5 carries for 68 yards, a 13.6 average, and a touchdown. Derek Carr, even in the rushing game, 6 carries for 41 yards, a 6.8 average. So in rushing, he gave the ball to everybody to rush the ball.
Pretty much. He definitely did. He gave everybody attempts, which it's pretty good to spread out the ball so that you never know exactly which player you're going to go to, or the defense doesn't know exactly which player you're going to go to. Receiving wise, though, we see at the top of the list, we see Keenan Allen with 7 receptions, 113 yards, and a touchdown. Then we see Elijah McGuire also contributing into the passing game, 3 receptions for 64 yards. Michael my bad. Michael Crabtree with 1 reception for 54 yards.
All
No
right.
other touchdowns.
No. Defensively, though, not many sacks in this game either. We see Khalil Mack with 1, DeAndre Levy with 1, Corey James with 1, and Joey Bosa with 1. So 3-1.
And then interceptions wise, we see Wesley Woodyard with 2, DeAndre Levy with 1, Trey Boston with 1, and Casey Hayward with 1.
Which is,
See if there's any.
which I have to say, I traded Wesley Woodyard to them for, actually for their cornerback because in what when I was trading was I didn't need him. I had Avery Williamson in my team, who's a great middle linebacker, a lot younger, and then I have a even younger one, a rookie, and he's been working out really well as a user. But it looks like Lima's getting some use out of him, Wesley Woodyard in the Raiders.
Well, congratulations to Lima on getting the win, and we wish Lima luck for the rest of the year as the Chargers is not in the league anymore. Into the next game we go, which is the last game for Week 6. We see Denver Broncos versus the New York Giants, which seemed to have been a pretty good game.
Ooh,
But we still see that the Broncos dominated on offense as well as on
well,
defense.
really,
Completely dominating on defense.
I see them dominating on defense. Really, offensively, I can't really say they did because all around they had a good rushing game, but they had no passing game. But same could be said for the Giants. They dominated in passing, but they didn't. They could not get that rushing game going.
I can agree to that. I can agree to that at some point. But if you have seen how your boy has been playing this year, he rarely passes the ball. He is pretty
Well,
much 90% of the time
if you
straight running.
if you see why he doesn't pass the ball when he's using Chad Kelly.
Yeah, that too.
We
That
go into
too.
passing. We see 278 yards and a touchdown, 8 interceptions, 4 sacks for Eli Manning. Chad Kelly 40 yards and 2 interceptions. Neither one. Even in yards, Eli Manning still threw 8 interceptions. Whew. And of course
As you
that
said
Broncos
though,
D front seven just always getting there.
man, but you were absolutely right though. You can see why your boy does not pass the ball as Chad Kelly has a 1.3
Three
passer
passer
rating.
rating.
That is
We
absolutely terrible. But as we go into the rushing game, we see that C.J. Anderson once again contributing large into the rushing game. 29 attempts, 202 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
He still tries to get Chad Kelly, who's got a pretty good amount of speed in the rushing game, but still fumbled, and so did Jamal Charles.
As we go into the receiving stats, we see at the top of the list Odell Beckham Jr. with 5 receptions, 118 yards. And then we also see Brandon Marshall with 3 receptions for 84 yards. No passing touchdown. Oh, there's actually
Yeah,
one
Chad
passing
Williams,
touchdown this
rookie
game.
out of Grambling State, with 1 reception, 2 yards, and a touchdown.
That's a name that I've never heard of before, but hey, he got the lone receiving touchdown for this game.
Defensively, we go into sacks. We see Von Miller with 2, Melvin Ingram with 1, and Damata Biko with 1.
As we go into interceptions, we see that Brandon Marshall has 3 interceptions. Brendan Langley, rookie out of tongue
University.
twister, Lamar University with 2. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie with 1. Aqib Talib with 1. Janoris Jenkins with 1. Jordan Lucas with 1, as well as Desmond Southward with 1. There's
Uh,
most likely defensive
yes,
touchdowns
there
in this
was. There's
game.
3. We have 1 by DRC, 1 by Janoris Jenkins, and 1 by Jordan Lucas.
We also have a forced fumble in this game. 3 forced fumbles, 2 by the Giants, 1 by the Broncos. Dalvin Tomlinson, rookie out of Alabama, Janoris Jenkins, and Melvin Ingram.
Congratulations to the Broncos for their win. Good luck to both of y'all for the rest of y'all's season. But here comes the time that everybody loves the most, and that's to see who did we pick for Game of the Week. In Week 7, we have there's a ton of games that could be considered Game of the Week, and I know we've been doing of uh, a lot of division games, but those seem to get people the most pumped up is for a division game in games or in real life. And we are taking the Chiefs and the Raiders. The reason we're taking the Chiefs and the Raiders, Chiefs are at the top of their division right now. Raiders are at the bottom. Lima is finally kicking off his season, which is not too late. It's only week 7. So he still has time to kick off his season. Maybe get the number 2 spot. Maybe not. We'll see. But we, of course, going with the Chiefs and the Raiders. And we have seen the Chiefs are really big in the passing, not really rushing. But we see the Raiders have been really well off with the rushing, really not passing the ball. But of course, we got to look at it from a professional standpoint of what are we looking in this game.
In
Yeah,
this game, you want to see which
is
defense is going to
yes,
step up to the plate.
that's what I
That
was.
is the biggest contributor.
That's what I was thinking too. And I think that's what everybody else is thinking too. It's when you see the Raiders and you see the Chiefs, you think offense, but really your mind goes to that defense. And who better to say these defenses are led by Eric Berry and Khalil Mack? You have one of the best safeties to grace the NFL field, but you have one of the best pass rushers and zone covers because he can play in zone. And you're like, okay, that doesn't make sense. You usually go quarterback, receiver. But let's go off of defensive captains. Is Khalil Mack going to
Not
lead
only
that?
that, there's
but
There's multiple players on defense that can affect the game.
mhm.
Uh, Khalil Mack obviously is the standout defensive player for the Raiders. We all know that. Just like you said, he is elite in pass rushing the ball, but he can get into zone coverage because he can play as a hybrid, not only as defensive end but also as an outside linebacker.
Okay, but let's look at this. Is in your mind, probably. Let me ask you this: is Eric Berry going to lead his secondary in covering the ball? Because we have to say the Chiefs, real life and in game, are really well known for not for stopping the passing. But since since we know that the Raiders love to run the ball with Marshawn Lynch and everybody else, can Eric Berry lead his team to stop the ball? Can he lead his team into pass rushing? And can Khalil Mack, known for leading that defensive line, not even the linebacker, the defensive line where you have Mario Edwards Jr., Jarrell Casey, Alden Smith, and himself on that defensive line, all known for pass rushing, can they stop the Chiefs from passing the ball though? Can they get enough pressure to stop the ball, and can they back up in the zone when needed to cover where the secondary won't be able to cover?
That's the one thing that I do gotta say. I am already going to point out at what I believe will happen in this game. What I see happening is that 100% I am going to go with the Chiefs because I just see that the Chiefs have the defense to stop the Raiders' offense. Because not only do the Chiefs have a secondary with Eric Berry and Marcus Peters, but they do have a fairly strong front seven as well with Derek Johnson, Justin Houston, and Chris Jones. That defensive front seven is something that is not to joke with. They were last year in real life top 5 in the run defense. So I do see the Chiefs having the upper hand defensively over the Raiders, and I think that will make a big difference because the Raiders do have the front seven, but the Raiders do not have a great secondary.
And I'm gonna have to disagree with you there because not only because of yes, the Chiefs do have a good front seven, but we all know that it's relied on Eric Berry leading that defense for passing, which yes, when Lehman passes, we know that Chiefs secondary is going to stop it. They're gonna make it where nothing happens. But I have to say, Khalil Mack, along with Jarrell Casey, Mario Edwards Jr., Alden Smith, four really good names that everybody knows on that D line. I think they're gonna get enough pressure, and we've in recent weeks, in the past 2 3 weeks, we have seen the Chiefs throw so many picks, not really getting like they get yards, but it looks like if the Raiders can get enough pressure, sack him, and make him throw that ball too early, that the Raiders secondary will step up and intercept or swat or do what they need to. So I'm gonna have to say the Raiders defense steps up and leads them to a victory this game.
We'll see. We'll see. This will definitely be a defensive matchup. I see this happening. Very low scoring. If it ends up being a high scoring game, I will actually be surprised. But both teams have pretty good defenses, and we'll just see which can affect which offense more. As we know, as you said at the beginning, Chiefs is known as a passing offense, and Lima is known for holding his run game. So whichever defense can stop the best from the other side, that will ultimately lead to who wins the game. But it will be a tight game, and it will be very low scoring.
Yeah. All right, and we come to the awards. In last week, we have Matthew Stafford, Brent Grimes, C.J. Anderson, and Eric Rowe. And I have to say that they deserve this. And all in all, we have, of course, Matthew Stafford, 31 for 38, 372 yards, 3 touchdowns, sacked 3 times, and even 7 carries for 16 yards. Brent Grimes, 3 tackles, 3 interceptions, and a touchdown. C.J. Anderson, 29 carries, 202 yards, and a 7.0 rushing average, 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 reception for 19 yards, and Eric Rowe for 11 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 interception, and 1 touchdown.
All very well deserved.
All very well deserved. And that also gives us to pretty much what I'm going to talk about next. And it's nothing big, but in my mind, I'm going to talk about this. Week 9 is 2 weeks away, and in reality, it's 4 days away. Me and Prophet will be coming out with our predictions for. We're going to look at the stats, and we're going to come up with one AFC and one NFC rookie that we think are going to take their team to the playoffs, or they're going to really have a really good season, even with the bad team.
Yes.
I also
We
have
will do that.
Also coming up here very soon. I don't know how soon, but I know it's coming really soon. I'm gonna say in about a week or two. I am moving. I'm moving from the house I am now to another house, same city and everything. But everybody knows how the moving process takes, how it's just long and dreadful. So the podcast might be put on hold while I'm moving. If there is a podcast, Lima will be leading it if he decides to, if he has the time to do it. So if you don't see a podcast for 3 weeks, or well, say about a week, I will come out with one. It won't be on advance. It will just me coming out with a podcast, going over everything that's happened in past weeks that I missed and everything else. I will have to tell y'all that because I will be moving, so of course I will not be on. My team will be taking some forced losses and everything else. But as always, guys, if you do like this kind of content, and I know a lot of y'all do because we see so many views on this, we know y'all as subscribers are coming back to watch this. I'm really happy to see y'all come back, but of course, hit that like button below. It takes 2 seconds, guys, to hit that like button. I'm trying to get like goal of 10 likes. It should not be hard for as many of y'all that watch. And if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button below. We come out with content like this every 2 days, and I will be coming out with more Madden content every single day. I will try to start uploading a lot more of different content. If y'all have games, I guess, that y'all want to see me play, comment them down below in the comments, or go hit us up on Twitter at Madden_podcast. You'll see it because it says ANL Live. But as always, I'm your host, Avengers. Alongside us is our co-host, Prophet.
Alright, guys. Hope you guys have a good week, or good games for this week in the league, and wish you guys the best.